The U.S. Supreme Court has agreed to take up a blockbuster abortion dispute, setting up a possible showdown over the future of Roe v. Wade. Yesterday, the justices announced that they would hear a Mississippi case seeking to ban abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. It will be the court's first test on abortion access since its expanded 6-3 conservative majority. Jan Crawford is at the Supreme Court. Jan, what can you tell us about this case?
Well, I mean, first of all, the court is not even going to hear arguments in this case until next term, which starts in October. So we probably won't have a decision until next summer. But because of these high stakes, obviously one of the most significant abortion cases to reach this court in more than a generation, advocates, abortion rights advocates already are terrified. Abortion rights opponents are hopeful. At issue, 2018 Mississippi law that would ban almost all abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. It's similar to bans recently passed in other conservative-leaning states, all with an eye on getting the newly conservative Supreme Court to reconsider Roe.
And we'll probably be sued here in about a half hour. That'll be fine with me.
Lower courts have struck down the bans as unconstitutional under existing Supreme Court decisions, which prohibit most restrictions until after the second trimester, about 6 months, when the fetus can live outside the womb.
And I will be appointing pro-life judges.
Conservatives have what could be the most solid majority in modern history, with 3 justices appointed by President Trump. 2 of them, Justices Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett, replaced justices who had refused to overturn Roe. During their confirmation hearings, both said they would follow the Constitution.
That I do see as distinct my personal, moral, religious views and my task of applying the law as a judge.
But according to the National Constitution Center's Jeffrey Rosen, even the decision to review the Mississippi case indicates this new court could see the issue differently.
It takes at least 4 justices to agree to hear a case. And this decision suggests that because the composition of the court has changed, its view toward Roe may have changed as well.
Now, last June, the court struck down a Louisiana law that could have left that state with only 1 abortion clinic. Chief Justice John Roberts, who, of course, is a conservative, joined with the court's liberals to cast the deciding vote. But this is a very different case and a much more conservative court. Anne-Marie?
Okay, so speaking of that, Mississippi is it's not the only state to try and pass stricter abortion laws, as you point out, or even try to ban abortion pretty much altogether. What makes this case stand out? Well,
you're right. I mean, there are a number of states, more than a dozen, that have passed these restrictive laws, and they're all designed to try to get here to the Supreme Court to kind of force the court's hand to reconsider Roe versus Wade. And all of these laws kind of target before the second trimester of pregnancy. Now, the Supreme Court's existing decisions say that states cannot ban abortion up until the point of viability. That means when the baby can live outside the womb, which typically is 20 to 24 weeks. So here we are now, Mississippi, 15 weeks of pregnancy. That's why this goes right at kind of the central kind of holding of Roe versus Wade in the subsequent cases.
So I think, people have been hearing about Roe v. Wade. They know what it stands for, since 1973. And many people may feel like it's settled law. But pro-abortion rights advocates have always been very concerned because some have argued that Roe v. Wade actually doesn't really sort of stand on solid constitutional grounds. And I think a lot of people don't know that the case was actually more about a privacy situation. So could you mind sort of going back in time and reminding viewers what Roe v. Wade was all about and how it, maybe this is too much, but how it became associated with the right to have an abortion?
Sure. I mean, and it's kind of interesting if you go back to 1972 or 1973 when Roe versus Wade was decided. It wasn't, in some ways, as hugely contentious as it's become. But many people on the right, conservatives, believe that the Supreme Court just made all that up. That Roe versus Wade is this lawless decision, that there is no right to an abortion, right to privacy of an abortion in the Constitution. The words just aren't there. So they've just never bought it. And as you've seen, abortion opponents have come here. For example, the March for Life across all the states. The abortion rights debate remains as contentious as it was 40, almost 50 years ago today. So that means, is it really settled law? That's the big question, because even if, and conservatives believe that Roe versus Wade is not in the Constitution, but the question now is it so settled that the court is just not going to take another look at it and it's going to strike down all these restrictions? That's going to be a major focus when the court takes up this case in the fall.
So the court, as you pointed out, now has a conservative majority. Who are the main justices to watch in this case?
Well, the three new justices appointed by President Trump, Justices Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett. Now, the reason that these new appointments, the most recent two, are the most important is because Justices Kavanaugh and Barrett replaced Justices Anthony Kennedy and, of course, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who refused to overturn Roe versus Wade. So now you've got a Supreme Court that potentially could have enough justices to rethink Roe. Justice Gorsuch replaced Justice Scalia, so that was just a wash. I mean, assuming that he would vote the same way Justice Scalia did and overturn Roe, that doesn't affect the balance of the court. The balance of the court on abortion rights potentially has changed because you have these two new Trump appointees. We have no idea how some of the other justices on the right will rule. Well, one, we don't know how Chief Justice John Roberts will rule on this. We saw what he did last year in the Louisiana case, but I don't think that's really gives us any indication of what he's going to do here. This is a different issue. We know that Justice Thomas has said he would vote to overturn Roe versus Wade, but we don't know what I think Justice Alito might as well. So, but we don't know. That's only three. So we don't know what those other three would do. I think that's going to be the major focus, and of course the Chief Justice as well. I mean, all of them really. I mean, this is, and I hate it when people overstate the significance of things. Like, oh, the biggest case ever. But in this case, it is fair to say that this is potentially the most significant case, certainly since 1992 when the court took a look at Roe, but potentially even going back to Roe itself. So, I mean, all the language you hear, I don't think it's ever going to be an exaggeration to talk about in this case.
Yeah, definitely. As you pointed out, the Supreme Court isn't going to hear this until the next term begins. That doesn't happen until October. Could anything happen in the meantime to stop the case from moving forward?
I don't think so. I mean, this case has been hanging around up here. Mississippi first brought it up here. It's been almost 8 months now. I think it was just a matter of when the court announced they were going to take it up, not if. And even if something crazy did happen in this case, you've got all those other laws out there with similar restrictions. This abortion rights was going to get to this Supreme Court one way or the other. It just was a matter of when. And so now we know when that's going to be. My guess is it'll probably be sometime around November. Then with a decision, and this is going to be quite a year in the Supreme Court. Yeah. There's a number of other highly charged cases, decisions then next June of 2022.
Well, then it looks like we'll be talking to you quite a bit, Jan Crawford. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. Thanks.